Hi everybody, welcome back to Talk with TQ and the Energy Stoners Cafe. We are recording today at the MOCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Peekskill, New York, and Studio Theater of Exile. It's one of our favorite places to do shows for you. Tonight, we are going to be interviewing Tom Kramer, and we'll be talking about things that are somewhat in relationship to Pride Month, and also just some interesting stuff. Tom, you might recall, I interviewed a number of months ago, and he talked about a play that he was in about, I believe, a cross-dresser, and it was very well received. Tonight, we're going to take a different kind of tone. So he's going to talk to us about his recent projects and what things are like now after the HIV crisis some years ago, and then some. Tom, welcome back.
I'm thrilled to be here. It's great to see you again.
It's good to see you again, too. You look happy, you look good.
I feel great.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me about this project you're working on now.
Okay, we are doing a production of The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer. No relation, and it was written 40 years ago, and it was an examination of the early years of the AIDS crisis, the establishment of the gay men's health crisis, and the anger and rage that was felt in the community over the government's lack of ability to help take care of the people that were infected by AIDS and to try to find a way to do research. Mr. Kramer was one of the original founders of Gay Men's Health Crisis, and he wrote this play in 1985 just as the crisis was really blooming, and it was written with great rage and anger at the lack of action by the government on a state level, a city level, and a federal level. And Mara and I, Mara, the artistic director of Studio Theater in Exile, chose this play because seeing where today's federal government is and how they are handling the national health issues, we feel that it is as relevant as ever. And so we decided to do this play as a way of reminding people of how the government needs to be proactive in protecting the health of its citizens.
So you feel that the government should be as proactive about AIDS as they seem to be, I've noticed, about things like diabetes, disease, and other kinds of diseases, but HIV still exists.
It does still exist. We are at a point where it's almost become a chronic illness. It's not quite there yet, but a lot of that has to do with the government action that's happened over the past 20 years, say from the late 90s to now. But this particular federal government is removing support and removing help for all aspects of health care in America. They are looking to cut back on medical services. They are looking to cut back on research. The people in power have taken a position of saying that science is not important when it comes to medical research, medical care, and protecting the health of citizens. So it's not just AIDS that is in jeopardy, that is being affected at this point. It's every health industry. They've withdrawn monies for cancer research in children. They are affecting, in a negative way, health needs of women, all to satisfy a very different agenda that is unfortunately rearing its head.
What do you think the agenda is?
That's hard to say, to be perfectly honest. I think, though, it serves Big Pharma. I think it serves the wealthy. I think the intention of removing funds for health care to the general population, and particularly the lower income population that don't have access to health care, is something that will help them facilitate tax breaks and things for their rich, wealthy donors and sponsors.
Yeah, I've heard this, and I can't say it's untrue. I cannot say that.
Yeah.
You know, I think also HIV is something that's hitting the general population as well. Heterosexual men, heterosexual
Absolutely. Yeah.
women. What do you think about, they have commercials on TV, I've seen them, about drugs that make HIV undetectable, but it's not a cure. And the pharmaceutical companies are sponsoring those.
Yeah. At this point, I think, as I said a little bit earlier, that HIV and AIDS, or HIV infection rates, they're still climbing slowly, but the way we treat it and handle it makes it easier for people to live longer and healthier. The drugs that are out there, the drugs to help control and regulate the infection, undetectable equals, what's the quote? Undetectable equals untransmittable, or something like that. So that's giving years of life to people who are already infected with AIDS. There are drugs out there that will help people prevent them from getting AIDS if they are engaging in unprotected sex. So all of those things are good, but it also all feeds into the monies that Big Pharma gets. And this piece speaks about the fact that medicine and research always comes with a price tag that is not necessarily,
Well, it's not necessarily monetary.
well, it's not necessarily monetary, but also in the end, there is a monetary goal for the corporations.
Oh.
You know, they walk a fine line, the pharmaceutical companies. And I think the strides that have been made in general is very encouraging. But when the government, again, is stopping that, stopping the research, removing monies for people who need it, who can't afford it, what's happening in Florida, the fact that Florida, the governor in Florida is you know, removing monies from needed sources, that shows a true callousness about towards the citizens of the country.
I found it interesting some years ago, many years ago, when Magic Johnson came down with AIDS. You know, so a lot of people don't realize that HIV doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get AIDS, but he was diagnosed with AIDS, and then all of a sudden everybody kind of woke up about it.
Yeah.
Because he was celebrity.
Yeah, for the longest time, there were a number of celebrities
And he wasn't gay.
Right. There are a number of celebrities who were infected who kept it very quiet because of stigma and everything else. Magic Johnson was one of the first ones who came out in order to diminish that stigma. So that was a very important turning point. Another one is Ryan White, a young man who is hemophiliac, and he received a tainted blood donation. And so all of a sudden, people are seeing a different face on AIDS than just gay men. So that has changed.
Do you think that that's what it will take to make the public aware to the point that they actually care?
I think the public cares more so, or a majority of the public. I think that there are members of the public who, unless it affects them personally, don't give a shit about anything.
Yes.
And that's unfortunate. You know, we are responsible for taking care of those around us, those who have, you know, more needs than ours, greater needs than ours. And it's important for us to make sure that we make their life as bearable and as easy as possible.
Right.
This play, it's 9 actors, and it's extremely powerful and extremely emotional. It follows the journey of this core group of men who created the first healthcare organization for AIDS in 1981, 1982, 1983. It covers a span of 3 years. And the battling that went on within the gay community about how to best handle AIDS as a crisis and as a disease. And there were two very conflicting viewpoints.
Yeah.
One was no sex ever, it's communicated that way, hands off everybody. Abstinence is the only way to really prevent it completely. And unfortunately, the gay community had relatively recently come into their own identity as sexual beings and people who celebrated their sexual identity and their sexual freedom. And so those two things came to a head. What are we willing to say that needs to be done versus how is it going to impact how we live? And so that's at the core of the piece in terms of the struggle in the community itself between silence and continuing behavior and making a clarion call and making sure that people act responsibly.
Do you feel that the HIV issue, I'm not going to say crisis, because I don't know that it's a crisis. You might know, I don't know, okay? Do you think the HIV issue should be addressed in schools? I know when I went to school, they were talking about like gonorrhea and syphilis and, you know, herpes.
I think any disease that is communicable, that you could take steps to prevent, are important. I think the idea of vaccinations. I mean, we're now eliminating vaccinations in schools because the people in power decided it's not really important, or it might cause autism, which there is no scientific proof that it does. But that's now what their view is, so they are now saying, well, you don't need to be vaccinated in school. And what we're seeing are measles outbreaks throughout the country because the population is stopping vaccinating infants and children. So now we're seeing measles outbreaks, a disease that was all but eliminated 10 years ago. It's making a resurgence.
Wow.
And it's going to affect an entire generation. It's going to be generations before it ever gets back under control, because these people are not, are not willing to listen to science and look to science.
Yeah.
So yes, I think anything that will help facilitate health in the general public and in ourselves needs to be discussed.
Yeah, yeah. So you're saying, yes, it should be discussed in schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so.
It's a fact of life, and if we know, just like teen pregnancy, contraception should be taught in schools.
Yeah.
I know that there's a part of the population that says, no, that's only to be taught at home or not taught at all. But the reality is that there is a need for it. And I think schools are negligent if they turn their backs on these kind of discussions.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me more about the play.
Okay.
The play.
Yeah.
The Normal Heart.
Yes, The Normal Heart by Larry Kramer, brilliantly written, very powerful. It was originally done at the Public Theater all the way off Broadway. Joe Papp produced it. It opened in 1985. Ran off Broadway. Then once the run was done, it kind of fell by the wayside. In 2011, there was a Broadway revival of it that was extremely well received. So that's a little bit of the history of the play. And then after that, there was a film made of it. I believe it was Netflix or maybe HBO made the film, and big name stars were in the film. So that's kind of the life of the piece. The show centers around a character called Ned Weeks, who is a stand-in for Larry Kramer. It's very autobiographical in terms of the piece and the characters in it. And Ned, it starts in July of 1981 right after the first article in the New York Times appeared about this rare cancer seen in 41 gay men. And that was the first time it was ever published in a major
publication.
a major publication alluding to AIDS and this unknown entity. And it's his search to try to get answers about what this is and about how to best deal with it. He makes contact with a doctor named Emma Bruckner. She is the one handling most of the AIDS cases in New York City at that time. She had the numbers of her patients keeps growing. And at the time that this piece starts, the death rate was over 50% of those that contracted AIDS within a 2-year period.
Wow.
Those are the two central figures to the start of it. Then what happens is Ned brings in 3 people, friends of his, to start this grassroots organization to help notify and inform the gay population, which ultimately became Gay Men's Health Crisis. And those 3 individuals are actually representing real individuals in Larry Kramer's life. There are parallels between each character and people who actually existed and did the work.
Oh.
And to add to the complexity of Ned's life, he has always been very much alone. He's had walls. He carries a great deal of emotional baggage. This man comes into his life who, even though Ned tries to push him away, won't go away, and they fall in love. And their love story is part of this piece, and their journey together. And the relationship between Ned and his brother is also part of it. And what we see is Ned letting down his boundaries, Ned becoming vulnerable and open as he does this work, and as he finds his purpose in life is to have a mission to build something beyond himself, which is what he's looking for at the start of the piece.
I'm wondering if you've noticed any change from your perspective, from your point of view, of the heterosexual community of men. I see I'll tell you, it doesn't really matter what I think. I'm just wondering, do you find that heterosexual people, especially men, are a little more open and receptive to hearing about this, or are they like, you know?
I think in general, the population is much more open to hearing, much more open to accepting, and much more comfortable with themselves and the fluidity in them, what may be fluid in themselves. I have many friends, straight friends, who are completely comfortable talking about this, engaging with other gay individuals. Those walls that had been up 20, 30, 40 years ago are nowhere near as high as they were. That said, there are certainly individuals who, whether it's out of fear or whether it's out of self-loathing because they recognize things in themselves that they don't want to, are very much battling the gay community, and they use the term the gay agenda. All gays want in this world is to be allowed to live and love as they wish. And most people, particularly as we look at younger and younger people, the 50s, the 40s, the 30-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, they are progressively becoming, this doesn't matter. We're a much broader spectrum than just black and white or left and right. There is a whole range of grays. There is a whole range of who we are and how we engage, which is something that's happening. And so I think that as a whole, yes, things are improving. If you look at what's going on in Europe and the EU, the European Union, they just legally recognized gay marriage throughout Europe, throughout the Union, something that is still being battled here.
Yeah.
So we are seeing a shift and a change. Unfortunately, for some reason, particularly in this country, there's a group of people who are very much opposed to it, who have gotten a foothold on the government and have a very loud voice.
The government and perhaps the collective consciousness, the collective mind.
I would say a small collective mind,
Okay.
a fraction of the collective mind, because when you say collective mind, I picture it being a much broader mind. I think that there is a portion of a group of people who have louder voices. And again, most people take the viewpoint of life from their own perspective. What's important to them? What do they need? What impacts me? And that's what they originally focus on. It takes people of tremendous courage and strength to say, what I need is not as important as what the collective needs. And identifying that and working towards that.
Instead of having the total self-centered viewpoint of things.
It's we are a community. And we can no longer exist just as ourselves. We can no longer look out just for ourselves, because in doing that, you are potentially causing damage to those around you if you are not acting with responsibility and integrity.
Yeah, that's deep.
I get that way sometimes.
No,
Sometimes
it's okay.
I'm frivolous.
No, it's not frivolous. That's a deep thought. It is, because a lot of people, well, I don't want to say I don't know everybody, so I always have to stop myself from my superfluous statements. But many people just don't want to get it. Do you think that the whole homophobic thing is fading to some extent as people come out in their own families?
I think, yes. I think as a whole that is happening. As I said, as we look at younger and younger people, the 30-somethings, the 20-somethings, the teens, it's not an important issue for them. What was so rigidly looked at before is not rigid anymore. And they're comfortable with it, and it doesn't make a difference. There are other priorities that they've put in place. So yes, it's happening. It's happening. It was happening on a relatively consistent increase, and then we hit 2016 and 2024, and we have a huge roadblock right now because of the people in power and their very specific agenda to turn gays, LGBTQ, trans individuals into sinister, evil people. They found their scapegoats. We are now being scapegoated by the administration. And they do that in order for them to keep power. Their agenda is to keep power. And unfortunately, that's stopped the growth of the willingness to let bygones be bygones and let people love. It stopped it temporarily. But I think at some point we will get back to getting past all of the labels and just engage with each other as individuals and as people who want the best for you and you want the best for us, and allow us to live our lives in dignity, with love, and safely.
Tell me where the normal heart. Normal heart. Tell me where the normal heart will be viewed. Where can I see it?
Absolutely. We're going to be performing at Studio Theater in Exile at the Hudson Valley Center MOCA. We open June 12th. We run 3 weekends, June 12th, 13th, and 14th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday at 7, Sunday at 3. We then are the following weekend, the 19th, 20th, and 21st, same times, 7, 7, and 3. And then closing weekend is the 26th and 28th, the Friday and the Sunday. And the Sunday performance on the final weekend is at 4 p.m. Saturday the 27th, is Peekskill Pride, who we are doing this event with. We are very much tied with Peekskill Pride. We are thrilled to have them as part of our production and our energy in terms of bringing this to the public. And they are doing the Peekskill Pride event on that Saturday. So we're going to be dark, and we're going to be there supporting their outdoor event, celebrating Pride in Peekskill. And then we come back on Sunday and close this out.
Well, I could say, like, to me, even though I don't know if I'm part of that community, I feel like every day is Pride Day. You know, I don't like that expression as an African American. You know, some of my best friends, but some of my family, my own family, and I just love them so much. I don't care who they love.
Yeah, you are very much an ally. What in the community is called an ally. You are supportive of us. You encourage us. You embrace us when we want to be who we are. When we live in our authentic selves. And there are so many allies that we are finding out there, both locally and personally, and then on a much broader scale. And it's important for the allies to be willing to speak up.
Right.
Anyone that adds voices of positivity to this are voices that we welcome.
Thank you for saying that. That's an important thing to say. And here at Studio Theater in Exile, Mara, she's definitely an ally.
Absolutely.
And she has no fears of presenting a diverse, I'll say, plethora of individuals that are not necessarily mainstream.
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, we kind of she prides herself, and I take pride in being part of this organization, to do things that are not necessarily mainstream, that challenge us, that inform us in new ways, that are fresh viewpoints. So I always celebrate the work that's done here, whether I'm directly involved or not, as giving voice to people who may not have a voice, or giving voice to something that needs to be said.
Yeah, things that need to be said.
Yeah.
A lot of things need to be said.
Yes.
They really do.
Yeah.
I find that, I guess here in the Hudson Valley, Peekskill is probably more liberal than other places in the world. And I'm not saying it's just liberal people that are gay, who are gay, but it seems that the Hudson Valley, they just support the arts. I find that the artistic community is very open.
The artistic community here does thrive. And I think that's because, first, it's a very accepting community, it's a very, very loving community, and it's also a curious community. They want to learn, they want to see, they want to know about other things. And there are certainly wonderful pockets of that, and unfortunately there are pockets where that doesn't happen throughout certain places in the state and certain places in the country, but any place that you can find that has a thriving artistic community is a place to cherish and to honor and to support.
Right. And on that note, I'll say the artistic community, where I feel I'm part of the artistic community, we're very open to acceptance, and we look at things very differently. Mm-hmm. We're not afraid to look at things differently than everyone else does. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful getting to talk to you again and to share a little bit more about the Normal Heart at Hudson Valley MOCA, Studio Theater in Exile.
In June.
In June, opening June 12th. Come see us. It's going to be a very exciting event for us.
I'm sure, and be there, be square.
That's it.
Of course, we'll talk to Tom again because I love these kind of conversations, and I'm so happy to present them to you, my audience. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.